Welcome into another edition of Feldco Bears Recap Live with the great Olin Kreutz, the great Tom Waddle. I'm little old David Kaplan, ready to rock and roll.
The greatest.
As we break down the Bears' loss to the Chargers, and we look ahead to the Saints game, and we also have to talk about the trade deadline. Bears were active today on keeping one player and adding another, so we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with our Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric game breakdown for all the right reasons. For season 30-13 was the final, and Tommy watched the all-22. I believe Olin did. I know I did. I spent a good part of the afternoon watching it. And Olin, I'll start with you this week. Mm-hmm. I did not think that Tyson Bagent was awful. I didn't think he was great. He was better watching him. I think Tommy concurred on tape than watching it live. What was your initial takeaway of how the quarterback played?
Yeah, he's extremely efficient, to be honest. When you watch him play from the pocket, when you watch him execute his throws, and as Tommy pointed out on our text chain earlier, there was, and I think Bagent said it too after the game, there was some confusion on some of his interceptions. So just a nice way of saying I'm not going to sell my teammates out, right? We say that all the time when, somebody misses a block. Well, there is confusion there. We all know exactly what happened. We're just not going to say it publicly. I give him credit for that. But as far as going through his reads, where the ball is supposed to be going, he's doing all that very well, and knowing where the blitz is coming from, knowing what plays to check in and out of. He does those kind of things. It's just kind of, is he raising the level of his teammates? But as far as the question, Tom, I think of is he a backup quarterback in the NFL? The answer is yes.
Yeah. No, I agree with you totally, Olin. Look, I was expecting it to look worse than it looked to me when I watched it again on the All-22. And I got to be honest with you guys. Again, I'm not suggesting to you that he's providing a ton of solutions for problems that face this team. We can get into the defensive issues that they had and the inability to stack positive outings consecutively. But I actually thought, I went back and charted pretty much every play. Like, I'm no quarterback expert, but I think there was really only one play in the first half where I thought it was a really bad decision, a really bad play on his behalf. And that was the interception. And I still, to this moment, I don't know exactly what DJ Moore's responsibility was on the route. He runs kind of a lazy 9, which means he's just kind of jogging, and it looked like he didn't know what to do. I think that Bagent thought he was going to turn it like 8 yards and to come back and the ball was going to be there. And ultimately that goes on the quarterback because Darnell Mooney's in the slot, runs a basic stick route, and you can hit him to eliminate any of the confusion. Now, I went to the second half and I was expecting it to look a little bit worse because they were in trail position at that point, and it did. The first drive of the second half, I thought third down was his worst play. He tries to force an in route to DJ Moore or Cole Kmet. I can't tell who he was throwing it to. The ball should have been picked off. If he's going to throw that route, it's got to be thrown a little bit quicker in the first window as opposed to the second window. Here's your first interception. And again, ultimately what you have is you have Darnell Mooney will motion towards the offensive line, and he'll find a little void in this defense. And here's DJ, and you see the circle here. Obviously, at the 40-yard line, Darnell's wide open, and it's probably the right choice for Tyson because if you get the ball to him, he can probably catch the ball and turn upfield and get the first down. I don't know what the confusion was with DJ and with Tyson here, but ultimately, this is miscommunication, and it'll go on the quarterback. I'm not trying to put this on DJ Moore. But it almost looks as if Tyson was thinking that DJ was going to stop, pivot, and go to the sideline. Ultimately, I thought, as I said, guys, I thought it was really the only horrible play I thought he made in the first half. In the second half, we could go through a couple of plays, but didn't think he was horrible. Didn't think he provided enough solutions. But at the same time, as Olin was saying, for the second start for a rookie quarterback, I didn't think it was disastrous. You got to take care of the football. There's no question about that. But on second viewing, I didn't think it was nearly as tragic as maybe I expected it to be.
How about you, OG, as you watch him play? I know he's in again this week because Coach Eberflus said Justin's not ready with the thumb. Do you feel like he gives them a chance to win?
Not in New Orleans, no. But and where the team is now, I just gave my pick. I shouldn't have done that.
Right. You don't usually make a pick.
Yeah, I usually don't do that. Where the team is now, and I think Tom and I both alluded to this, he can't solve all the problems they got. They don't have enough playmakers. You know, Khalil Herbert is still out, their top running back. You know, as far as that interception goes, as Tom is saying, you don't know. You know, DJ Moore, we've all said he's great, and we agree on that. But I could point to about 3 or 4 times this year where he's running the wrong route or is confused. So we got to get that cleaned up at some point also on his end. So you like what you see, Cap? He is their best option right now. Will he keep raising his level? He's got a tough task this week, right? I mean, I think we'd all agree. I'm sure we'll get to it at the end of the show. And we're just going to keep learning about this kid. And look, I went through this. Tom went through this. We talk about this every time. The more you put on film, Cap, the harder it gets in the NFL. Because here's the difference. In the NFL, there are guys sitting in chairs for 8 hours a day figuring out how to stop you. You specifically, how do we stop Bagent? And you already heard Staley and Derwin James talking about it a little bit. You saw what the Chargers did a little bit, right? They took away the inside of the field and made him throw the ball, right? So it was interesting to watch that. Now the NFL is what? It's a copycat league. So expect to see it again, and you better find a way to beat it. But I will say this. He hits Mooney, right? He checks that off. 41 yards. Tom will talk about it. Mooney, please keep running. Please keep running until you hear it to make them blow the whistle there. So he's doing a lot of good things, more than anybody thought a backup quarterback from Shepherd would do.
You know, you got to also make sure the guys are going to sit on him. Like the Asante Samuel 4th down throw, Samuel's sitting on Evans. Like that's something you have to expect now going forward. They're going to sit on some of these hitch routes. So maybe sluggo, slant and goes to, be creative and just keep, hammering into his mind that, look, you don't have to check everything down. If you want to push the ball downfield, push the ball downfield. But I mean, the more tape that you see as a quarterback, the more accustomed you're going to get to, trying to find solutions to the problems defenses are putting out there in front of you. And conversely, as Olin said, the defenses are going to get more film on you and they're going to find different ways to try to confuse you. So it's a learning process. But again, I go back and say it wasn't, he didn't provide enough solutions. I didn't think he was a disaster. I think the tone for the game was set early with the defense making mistakes. I thought it was a very self-destructive performance by the entire team. But the defense kind of let it get away from them early. They got in trail position, and it's not a comfortable spot for this offense.
All right, let's take a look at Tyson's numbers. We call it Tyson Bagent Winging It, brought to you by West Town Bakery in Wheeling. My wife and I were there for breakfast on Sunday. But Tyson's numbers, 25 of 37, 232. He did not throw a touchdown. He did run for one. And then the 2 picks, the second of which, after watching it 15 different times today, Darnell Mooney's got to take the hit and make the catch. It's like a kill shot coming. But as Tom Waddle's dad told him when he was a young player, if you catch the footballs in your hands, you're going to get hit anyway. You may as well hang on to it.
It is a good teaching moment for wide receivers and tight ends as well. That second interception. When Mooney cuts in, he drifts. It's something that I've been critical of Cole Kmet of in the past. And in all receivers, you should look at that film and you should learn from it. When you plant your foot and you turn inside, A, you're going to get hit, but B, you cannot drift. You make it harder on your quarterback. So not only did Darnell not catch the ball, he also made it more difficult on Bagent because when he turned to cut in, he drifted a little bit and gave the defender a more of an opportunity to come in and make a play.
Yeah, by the way, West Town Bakery, my wife and I went there Sunday for breakfast. Olin, I've gotten these for your kids. They sent over Halloween cake balls today with your name on them. I knew you were at practice. I'll get them to you. Here's my dinner. How about a little mushroom avocado bread, a mushroom avocado toast with goat cheese? Really delicious. So check them out at the corner.
He's awful fancy, isn't he, Olin?
And Milwaukee. That's it, man.
It's funny, Captain Tom. I was thinking about what we're talking about where they're going to be studying Bagent and he has to improve on what he's bad at. But also, that's where your coaching staff comes into play, right? predicting and giving you plays that you're good at and predict how the defense is going to play against you. And we saw an example of give Getsy credit. They had a half roll to the left because everyone kept talking about he only rolled to the right. He only rolled to the right. And Getsy forced it to the left. So the coaches this week, Tom, with a rookie quarterback, that offensive staff, that think tank they got up there, they have to go there and they have to give Bajan ways to beat what the Saints are going to do against him in the game plan. And then you better be drilling it in practice. You better be drilling what he's bad at, and you better be working on the things that he needs to work on because they have enough defensive coaches in that building where they can say, look, how would you stop him? What would you line up and do against him? And then work on those things to beat that, to keep the young man comfortable in what's going to be a hard place to play.
Answer me this question, because the average fan who calls in on our radio shows, oh, Luke Getsy's calling a terrible game. Luke Getsy this, Luke Getsy that. Again, I didn't play 13 years in the league. I didn't play wide receiver
14.
for the Bears.
14.
Oh, 14.
I'm sorry. 14. I'm sorry.
There you go. You sound like Briggs when I go, 6-time Pro Bowler. He goes, make it 7.
Tell him alternate doesn't count, Cap. They don't count the alternates.
Wow. He dropped that on Alex Brown one day, Tommy. I said, Alex is like, what about me? And Olin turned, he goes, alternate doesn't count.
Ouch. Ouch.
The best. Is I watch this, like, I don't feel like Luke Getsy's doing a horrible job. I'm not telling you he's Bill Walsh reincarnated, but I don't feel like he's doing a horrible job. I just think there are times Justin didn't make a good throw, or Bajan didn't make a good play, or somebody didn't get a block. I feel like he's doing an okay job. Do you?
I think that, I think we've all said the following words. This is shared culpability. I think that, it's not one aspect of things. It's not one aspect when things go wrong. I think everybody has to share in the responsibility. There are times when you ask, is this the right play that they're calling? I'll give you an example. In the first drive, you hit the deep ball to Darnell Mooney. Great play. 1st and 10, I believe Cody gets knocked off the ball. It's a 1-yard gain. You've got 2nd and 9, and you try to run a jet sweep with Trent Taylor. Like, I just don't understand. Like, that's a play. If you want to run it to Darnell Mooney, who's got, breakaway speed, you want to give that ball to Tyler Scott. Even if you want to bring Velus Jones in, and when Velus comes in, everybody's antenna goes up. But it's a play that is better suited for one of the guys that's got top end speed than it is Trent Taylor. To me, that's a bad decision on their behalf. But you look throughout the course of the game and you'll see, an offensive lineman will miss a block. You'll see a wide receiver will drift and not make a play. You'll see a quarterback make a bad read. I think at the end of the day, they're not talented enough. They're not disciplined enough. And at times the play calling does leave you with a little bit of a question mark. But I have said it from the very beginning, and I don't feel any different now. I think that the problems that they have had offensively is a result of a lot of stuff, and shared culpability would probably be the best way for me to describe it.
Olin?
Yeah, I think this, Cap. I kind of agree with you where I don't think he's been terrible. I agree with Tom. Before that, Tom, on the play you're talking about where they lost a yard, they faked Trent Taylor on a sweep.
Yeah.
And I thought before that, like, who cares about Trent Taylor on it? That's what I thought. And then they handed them the ball. And I'm thinking, gosh, like, you're Mooney, Velus Jones, DJ Moore, let's get the ball in their hands. And I don't know. So that to me just – and then the Wildcat, right, where Lucas Patrick gets the holding call before he gets the hands to the face, right? Like, the Wildcat, like, I don't get it. Like, why are we in Wildcat? You don't even have your starting running back. I will say this, Cap. He's not an advantage, right? He's not giving us an advantage over the other team.
Agreed.
And that's what I was saying about our offensive coordinator. Is he terrible when I watch the game? No. I don't like the way he game plans for Justin Fields. I will say that. But he has not become an advantage yet in his second year. Whereas I'm watching the game, I'm saying to myself, this guy is out coaching his counterpart.
Valid point. As you watched Justin Herbert, like, to me, that's a big boy at quarterback. That's what a franchise quarterback's supposed to look like. His numbers in that game, 31 of 40, 298, 3 touchdowns, no picks, was never sacked, only hit twice in the game, started 15 of 15 and 20 of 21. Like, that's my kind of quarterback. Did you guys like? I know the performance was great. Do you like that quarterback, though?
I do. I mean, I think Justin Herbert, who's had an up and down year this year, but overall, I think he's a difference maker, as Olin likes to call him. I think he's a multiplier. I think he's a guy that provides solutions more than a lot of guys in the league. You know, I thought the biggest issue with regard to this game, and I think the outcome of the game was defined really early by our inability to get him off his spot. When you can't pressure an opposing quarterback with your front four, you're in trouble. You can live with that scenario if the quarterback is Brian Hoyer or it's Howell from Washington. When that quarterback is Justin Herbert and you can't pressure him and you hit him twice and you don't sack him at all, there's no chance you're going to beat that team. And you give a guy like him enough time and he's going to make your life miserable. So when you step up in class against top level quarterbacks and you can't pressure them, it's going to be a long 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and I was wondering, have we seen a stat yet on what was his farthest pass down the field? Like, tackling was the biggest problem, right?
Yes.
He did not come up and tackle in that game. And because I was bored and because I'm an analyst for the Chicago Bears, I was wondering what the hell I'm going to talk about on radio one day. And I looked up, I was like, after their last 4 out of the last 5 wins, the average score is 30-15, exactly what it ended up being, right?
Yeah.
So this team, they got to stop taking these victory laps after they win. They got to stop acting like they arrived, right? They got to go back to work the next week. And someone in that building has to be on edge and let everybody know, look, like somebody has to stand in front of that room, guys, and be like, I got news for you guys. We are not a talented team. So for us to compete and win, we have to be at a high level executing every day on every play. We have to be outworking the team we play on Wednesday, especially when we see Herbert, especially when we see Keenan Allen, especially when we see Austin Eckler, right? These kind of guys are going to be a problem. And all of a sudden, right, I won't speak for you guys, I was so excited to see our secondary go against a good team. And then Brisker all of a sudden is out. Like, this is happening too much to Chicago Bears. Lucas Patrick showing up on a Saturday or Sunday with a bad back. Like, it's just like we got to keep our guys healthy, keep them on the field so we can see them against them. Because even though TJ Edwards misses that tackle on the screen, like, no one else is there.
Okay, here's that picture. I pulled 3 shots. Here's the Chargers' first touchdown that OG's talking about. Here is right before the snap. And then here is picture number 2 as you see Eckler start to make a move. And then you're going to see a white jersey that got faked out of his shoes. And there goes Austin Eckler. And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue jerseys, 2 tacklers. That's not good odds. See you later. I'll meet you in the house. This
is the first drive of the game for the Chargers as well.
Yes,
and again, when you can't rush the passer, or you're outmanned, and you are outmanned against the Chargers. Chargers were 2-4 in this game, but their roster is significantly more talented than ours. Mm-hmm. They'd played some stiff competition. They had lost to the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs and to the Miami Dolphins earlier in the year. So they played some stiff competition, and I thought from the very beginning that they were a more talented team than their record. So like Olin said, when you're less talented, you've got to make fewer mistakes. Like, they were self-destructive from the very beginning, whether it was 7 penalties, 2 turnovers, the missed tackles, the missed assignments. TJ Edwards has got to make that play. And Olin's right as well. Like, once Eckler gets a little bit of momentum going, where was the rest of the secondary to come over there and stop that play from being, a touchdown? At the very least, make it a 15 or 20-yard game, but don't let them get in the end zone. And we saw that play on the first drive of the first half, and you saw them miss a tackle on the last drive of the first half. And I just thought that the first 30 minutes of that game really, you knew that it was going to be a long afternoon because the Chargers came out ready to play. They weren't self-destructive, and they were a more talented team.
By the way, that is our Dr. Pepper play of the game.
Oh, come on.
Is that Austin Eckler touchdown. Play of the game. What do you want me to give it? The Beijing?
No, I don't know, man. I just want a Bears play of the game once in my life. But listen, on that play, okay, I remember going back to the Washington Commanders game and watching Eberflus run his blitzes and thinking, did the Washington Commanders, this Tampa 2 now, guys, very specific blitzes in specific situations. For a center, the Washington Commanders, they had no idea it was coming. Now, they run their Mike Sam blitz here, Mike Nichols Sam, Kyler Gordon off the edge. The end has to drop. It's a zone blitz. The end has to drop into the flat there, into the hook area. So now he's a defender there. TJ Edwards is actually covering for whoever has the flat, and he gets sealed in there by the tackle, right? So this is a breakdown on defense here, right? They blitz one side, zone blitz. The end's got to drop out. I couldn't really see who the end was. I think it was Yannick Ngakoue, but he can't get hooked there by Slater, right? And all of a sudden now I'm watching the film, and I'm not this kind of analyst. I'm not going to say names. But guys are jogging. They're jogging over to the screen, right? Like you again, I hate turning the film on, Tom. I don't mind seeing them being outmanned. I don't mind seeing them losing games. I hate seeing culture problems, right? To me, that's, again, you're not preparing every week. Your veterans are not getting guys going. They're not saying this is unacceptable. Like, I like to ask Coach Flus last week, you knew you had this problem of winning back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Like, did you restart a practice one day? Just you go out there knowing, Tom, you're going to restart a practice. Like, I'm going to make a point to these guys. Like, whatever they're doing is not good enough.
It is crazy. If you go back in this regime, there has never been a back-to-back win. In fact, you have to go back to week 16 and 17 of the 2021 season to find a Bears 2-game win streak. Like, they haven't won consecutive games in almost 2 years. And you do have to ask the question, is it something that we're doing wrong in preparation, or is it something that we're doing as a team that isn't getting us? Are we celebrating these wins that happen every blue moon? And if that's the case, there's no question that that's a trend that you don't want. And that's a personality trait that obviously is not being addressed by the coaching staff.
Tom, did you guys have somebody, I think I told this story, but in 2001, we had Ted Washington come over for the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills did a lot of winning. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but they did a lot of winning with Ted Washington over there in Buffalo. Obviously, the team had a ton of Hall of Famers. But we beat, I forget who it was, in the fourth week of the season. I think we got our first win in 2001. We went 13-3. And we were in the locker room doing that because we weren't very good here. From 98, 99, 2000, we were terrible. And Ted walked in and he said, hey, listen here, motherfuckers. Stop acting like we won the Super Bowl. This ain't the Super Bowl. Try to act like you expected to win a game, right? And I learned a lot that day. And he would come to practice. That man practiced for as big as he was, 380, a biscuit from 400. He practiced every day. He set the tempo in practice, and he always had a chip on his shoulder. And things were not good enough, man. And he challenged you. And I just I don't know if you guys have someone like that, but it was just a good lesson for us young guys to learn.
It's interesting. Maybe it's a trait that runs, it's a commonality with defensive tackles, but Steve McMichael was always that guy. Steve was out there when it was time to work. It was time to work. It wasn't time to play grab ass, and it wasn't time to pat yourself or others on the back. It was time to make each other better. And Steve will tell you playing across from Jimbo Covert every day in practice made him better, and Jimbo will tell you that Steve made him better. And there was no effing around at any time. I mean, they were out there to work, and the veterans should set the tone on this team. It's a team that needs some direction. It's a team that at times I think that kind of wanders a little bit. And if that direction isn't coming from the head coach, it's got to come from one of these veteran players. So Olin, it's such a great point. You have to ask yourself a question. It's been 2 years. Why can't we win back-to-back games in a league that is just absolutely dominated by mediocrity?
I do that at the radio station, Olin.
Yes.
Oh, I don't doubt it. You did it for our TV show, man. You held us to a certain standard.
I hold you to a standard, and then I enforce it.
The enforcing part you're really good at.
Yes.
Yeah, really good. Quick look at the rushing numbers, because that's where I was most disappointed. There's talented names on San Diego, I keep calling them San Diego, on Los Angeles, but I thought the Bears would be able to run the ball better. Dante Foreman, 9 carries, 34 yards. Why only 9 carries? Maybe because you got down 17 points. Roshan Johnson, 6 for 21. Darrington Evans, 4 for 18 and a tutty. Mooney, 1 carry for 3. Tyson, 4 carries for -1 and did have a touchdown. and Trent Taylor 1 for -2. 25 carries, 73 yards with a long of 12. That's what disappointed me. And I'm not just putting it on the offensive line. I thought they didn't stay loyal to the run enough because they got down early, right?
Yeah, we were real specific, right? Tom, we talked about last week the way these Bears get a win. It's like 170-plus rush yards, and they win the turnover battle. Like, it's not rocket science, right? So, look, the offensive line, Cap, not their best showing, right? And we talked about, and Darnell Wright proved me wrong. I didn't think he was going to finish that game, and he went out there and did it. I give that young man credit for battling through his injuries. But this offensive line, again, like the team, it's like, can we put two physical ones back to back? Right, the running back, Deontay Foreman, like I needed a statement run again. I need one. You can't just do it for 1 week in the NFL, right? You got to be attacking guys every week. It's one of the hardest things to learn. This offensive line is young. I worried, guys. First of all, I knew about Darnell Wright's shoulder and toe. I know Tevin Jenkins gets beat up a little bit as the season goes on, and then I heard about Lucas Patrick's back, and already I'm like, this ain't gonna be great, right? This ain't gonna be a great game. Besides that run by Darrington Evans, that toss where Darnell Wright led him into the end zone, kind of a toss crack look. The run game didn't look great. There were guys in the backfield. And remember, we even got stopped late in the game on short yardage plays, 4th and 1. We got stopped. So a lot of penetration, and the Chargers defensive front won the battle.
I also thought the play call on that 4th down, I thought that was an awful play call.
It's so funny that this is, again, to me, is an example of shared culpability. Do I want to run that play in that manner? Like, I got a wide receiver split out, and I've got Cole Kmet on that 4th down in a staggered split. Like, first of all, Cole Kmet against Joey Bosa is not really an advantage for us. It's an advantage for the Los Angeles Chargers. But if you watch that play, we could question the play call, but Lucas Patrick gets driven back 3 yards, which forces Roschon Johnson to make a jump cut. And Darnell Wright, as good as he's been as a rookie, whiffs on his block. So next thing you know, I've got my center in the lap of the running back, and I've got my right tackle that's whiffed on a block, and I've got my tight end in a staggered stance or a staggered split trying to take on Joey
One of the
Bosa.
best in the world.
So, like, I mean, if everybody's doing their job, there's probably a 60% chance you're going to get it. When 3 guys aren't doing their job, there's a 0% chance you're going to get it.
I thought the coach.
And the thing about Cap, like what Tom's talking about is so true. We talked about is getting advantage, right? And what the D tackle does to Darnell right there is he swims up to his outside shoulder. You want to know why? He's guessing double team. Why is he guessing double team? Because you've been trying to double the same guy for 4 weeks in a row, right? So what is the counter to that play? You have to run it. When a guy loops out, what can we run, right? Lucas Patrick is in at best one-on-one, head up nose. You leave him one-on-one. At best, you're getting a stalemate. At best, you have to win that double team block there. If you're going to put Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright on one guy, you have to win there. But if they make the same call every week, and I can see they're going to double team me, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to swim his outside shoulder and make the play, right? So we talk about now the players have to make that block anyway sometimes. But is there something we can do there where we guess? Look, I think this guy might loop out because he don't want to get double teaming because you think about it. You play D tackle and you loop out on a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1, and you're wrong. That is an easy first down for the offense.
See, like to me, it's really an easy kind of conclusion. Questionable play call for the reasons Olin is talking about. Poor player execution. At the end of the day, we could sit here all day long and dog cuss Luke Getsy for a bad call. But a lot of times players, if you do your job, you can make an offensive coordinator look better than maybe he actually is by just executing the play. So we can dog cuss Luke Getsy all we want, but you also have to acknowledge that the players didn't do the job that they were supposed to do. And had they done their job better, even if it's a bad call, you probably are still going to pick up the half a yard. You're going to extend the drive.
Hey, Cap, I'm sorry to keep jumping in, but I just want to, like, Tom is making such a great point there because here's something I used to always tell people. They'd be like, oh, man, the coaches, we always complain on the bus after, right? The coach's call. Well, why did he call that? It was a hard block for me. And I would just say simply, you want to get paid? Do you want to get paid? Make the fucking block.
Yeah.
Right? Make the tough blocks. Like, make the tough blocks no one else wants to make. If you make those blocks, you get your second contract. If you don't, if you're the guy who's always complaining, then you got a problem.
This is the point I've been making, guys, all along about the quarterback position as well. Now, is it fair to ask him to have solutions to problems that maybe are other people's problems? Maybe not. But it's the most important and the most difficult position to play in all of sports. And the guys that play it well, and the guys that are multipliers, and the guys that provide solutions are the guys that go home with $250 million contracts. Did Tyson Bagent provide enough solutions in that game, especially in the second half, to get you to where you needed to go? No, it wasn't all on him. Has Justin Fields at times provided solutions in the face of adversity? Yes. But over the course of Justin's time in Chicago, I would argue, even exposing myself to the criticism that would come from those that don't think that Justin ever does anything wrong, that there have not been enough solutions from Justin, even though he hasn't had a ton around him. That's the nature of the beast in this game, and that's the nature of the position playing quarterback in the NFL. Even when it isn't perfect, that guy has to provide more solutions than our guys have provided. And to me, it's simple as that. When shit goes sideways, the better quarterbacks find solutions to problems that aren't of their making, if you know what I'm saying.
We got to take a quick break. I talked to Coach Wanstead today, who watches the show. So, hello, Coach. He said he was coaching the Bears, and he said it was towards the end of his time there. And he said we had literally that much to get a first down. And if we can get it, we can win this game. And Tony Wise walked down and goes, Coach, punt the football. He's like, Tony, are you telling me we can't get that much? He goes, that's exactly what I'm fucking telling you. We cannot move them that much. Punt the football.
Yeah, we're in Atlanta one year on the goal line, and Lovey had this thing, like he was going to go for a touchdown on fourth down. And I walked up to him, I said, Coach, kick the field goal, man. we can't block these guys. You know, I gotta go back and look at what game that was so I can tell you guys who the
What do you have? Do you have Grady Jarrett over your head at that point?
I had Grady over my head. We were counting on Greg Olsen to clean out a linebacker. Just wasn't his strength. Greg's strength wasn't to be a fullback, right? Great football player, great analyst. But you're not going to put Greg in the A gap to take on a linebacker anytime soon.
All right, we got to take a quick time out. You're watching Feldco Bears Recap Live. We'll be right back.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chiller.
Folks, there's no need to be afraid of old windows.
Right now, buy one window and you'll get one free. Plus, no interest for 1 year. Buy one window, get one free ends Halloween. Hurry. Call now.
For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4FELDCO. 4 Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, 4 Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. Hey, Dr. Pepper is an American original, just like our Chicago Bears, pleasing your taste buds since 1885. Dr. Pepper has a unique combination of 23 flavors, a winning formula football fans love. So grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. I've got the zero sugar cherry today.
Ooh,
there's Diet Dr. Pepper, the best.
I got the diet. My sons were home this weekend. Too much pizza. I got to tell them stop ordering pizza and food when they come home. I forget sometimes I'm not an old lineman anymore.
That's it. You went to the diet. Our Dr. Pepper player of the game, unfortunately, has to be a Charger. It's Justin Herbert, 31 of 40, 298, 3 tutties, and they did not have to launder his uniform for this week's game because he was barely touched and never hit the ground, even with that splint on his left hand. So that is our Dr. Pepper player of the game. All right, I want to move to the trade deadline, guys, because today the Bears ended up making a deal with the Commanders. They had been down the road on a deal for Chase Young. Medicals were not good, so they stepped up from a third-round pick that they were offering on Young to a second-round pick for Montez Sweat, who I believe they'll get an extension done with, or there's no reason to make this trade. Olin, what'd you think of this deal? Because that kid's a hell of a football player.
Yeah, I liked it, man. I think the Bears, they need, and he's a young guy at 27. I think guys like this who are physical freaks, they can play a long time in the NFL just because of his genetic gifts he has, extremely long arms. He does a nice job with his hands. He's violent on the edge. He's a guy the Chicago Bears need. And if you think he is better than any defensive end that's in the second round of this year's upcoming year draft, then why not, right? Why not go get one now? It all depends, Tom, if they can re-sign him, right? And I'm sure they're going down that road already. But I mean, gosh, I just can't watch that defensive line anymore. So they have to add something to it, and that's why I'm excited about it, because I can't watch that quarterback spend 5 seconds in the pocket, go through every progression, and then wait for his last progression to get open like the Chargers did on their first touchdown. So I'm happy they got Montez Sweat. I hope it works out. They re-sign him. I think he's just kind of touching the ceiling of his ability right now.
It's a stiff price to pay. A second-round pick is a lot to pay. There's no question about it. It makes no sense if you don't sign him to a contract extension, because at 2-6, you're not renting players right now.
You could tag him too. You own his right.
You could, but why in the world would you trade for him and give up a second-round pick and then tag him if you didn't have at least a conversation with his representation? And by the way, his representation isn't going to allow him to be bought out of free agency at a bargain. Okay. No. So they're going to ask for a very high price. And my assumption is that Ryan Poles has already had these conversations and is well down the road on this, because the last thing, as I said, you want to do as a 2-6 team is give up a second-round pick for a guy that you rent because you can't get on an extension. And you don't want to franchise him. You want to get him in the fold for a long period of time. Some asked, why not let him, because he is an impending free agent or a pending free agent. Why make the trade right now? The guess is obviously somebody else was interested in him. Somebody would have traded for him and then signed him to a long-term deal. But to me, it makes no sense at all unless you sign him to an extension. And even when you do that, it's still a pretty high price to pay, but it's a position of need, and I think he's a difference maker. So I think you can definitely justify it as long as you come to a conclusion or you come to an agreement on a long-term deal.
Olin, you also have Jalen Johnson last night at 11:30. Ian Rappaport says the Bears just this minute have granted him permission to seek a trade. He goes around with his reps to 31 other teams and then comes back and goes, all right, I'm going to stay. But Josina Anderson from ESPN, who's always very tapped in, said he is not going to negotiate in season. I believe she expects he's testing free agency. He's not going to get tagged at that number. So do you just let him walk, or should you have just taken whatever you could get?
Well, I'm sure they made him an offer and he turned it down, right? I went through this in my fourth year. I was 24 years old, like Jalen Johnson. The Bears made me an offer. I almost jumped at it. My agent, Mark Bartelstein, who's actually out of Illinois, out of Chicago Priority Sports, them and Rick Smith said, Olin, just wait. And I had to go to free agency, right? And I always tell people, you want to find out how good you are, go to free agency, right? Go and find out. Go find out how good you are, and you'll find out when you get there if another team wants you. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if another team wanted me, but I got the free agency, and the year is tough, man. It's tough to go through it. I had two, I think R.W. McCorders and Brian Robbins, they got signed that year, re-signed by Jerry Jones and the Chicago Bears. So I was watching other guys get signed. I thought it was my time to get signed. It was bugging me a little bit. But at some point, I just said to myself, man, play the best football I can play, and it'll all work out, right? Be a good teammate, play hard, put on film what I want to put on film. Lucky we went 13-3 that year. Lucky I had a lot of good offensive linemen around me to make me look good. And I got to where I wanted to get to. So Jalen Johnson, if he does the things he's doing right now, if he plays good, hard football, he has nothing to worry about. Things will work out for him.
Listen, I thought Cap and Olin, I thought Ryan Poles played this perfectly. I want to keep Jalen Johnson. I think this is a roster that is void of talent in a lot of ways. I think they need more good players, not fewer good players. So I would not have been in the market to trade him unless somebody wanted to overpay for him. And the report is that they were asking for a pretty steep price, a second-round pick. No one was willing to give that. I thought what Ryan Poles did, saying to his representation, fine, go find a trade. And anybody that's going to trade for Jalen Johnson is also going to want to sign him into an extension and not rent him, much in the way I believe the Bears traded for Montez Sweat and want to sign him to an extension. So I think what Ryan Poles did was basically allow Jalen Johnson and his representation to get a feel for what the rest of the NFL market looked like for him. And maybe it didn't look like what they thought it was going to look like. That maybe someone wasn't willing to give a second-round pick and then give you $20+ million a year. Maybe they set the bar a little bit too high. I think he's a fantastic player. I want him back on this team. I don't think he should be paid as a top 5 corner. And maybe this was a good come-to-Jesus moment for him and his representation. Now, as Olin said, go back to work, be the best player that you can be, build on what has been a very good year for you, and hopefully – before all is said and done, the Bears do find common ground with him and they find a way to keep him in the fold for years to come.
Olin, did you find, and you played at this Hall of Fame level, and you're going to be there in Canton, I believe, someday, deservedly so. Did you find as you're going through this year where, boy, I almost took the extension, the security, you've got Wendy, who you grew up with, like you got kids, and you're like, oh, man, I'm on the final year of my deal. Did it ever cross your mind playing through injury? Maybe I should sit a game, or nope, I just played the way I play.
No, but I'd be lying. I wasn't thinking about sitting, but I'd be lying if I wasn't worried about it, right? I was worried about getting injured. I had torn 2 MCLs the year before. So I was worried about it for sure. I was worried about getting injured at that point in my career, and I just made my first Pro Bowl, and I thought I deserved to get paid. And all of a sudden now I'm not getting paid and I got to play these games out. So of course you think about those things. I don't think you'd be human if you didn't, but I hope that they get Jalen Johnson done. Cause like Tom said, good football player. Yeah. They don't have a lot of them, now it's Roquan is gone. Right. And it's just kind of, I hope that the Bears are negotiating in good faith. Right. I've heard a few things about, like you guys know, I run a gym with offensive linemen. I know offensive linemen the Bears have tried to sign, and some of the negotiations, some of the things they've said have rubbed guys the wrong way. So all I'm saying is make sure your negotiation is negotiating. If you want to keep a guy, you want him to come back, you want him to be happy to be there, be a leader, pay him well, and make sure he wants to play for you for years to come.
Yeah, it's also like, look, they keep talking about, drafting and developing. Like, I get it. Johnson wasn't their draft pick, but he is a homegrown talent. So develop him, find common ground with him, and move forward with him. Again, this is a roster that doesn't have a ton of talent. He's one of your better players. Don't be looking for reasons to get rid of him. Look for reasons to re-sign him, even if it's something that gets outside of your comfort level. I would never tell them to go out there and spend foolishly on him. But Olin makes a great point. I think when they traded Roquan Smith, and I was someone that was fine with it, because look, it wasn't that you didn't want to re-sign him. I understood the reason why. You don't pay $100 million to an off-ball linebacker, but you better use that money on somebody that can fit your system and be a difference maker as well or better than Roquan. So it's not about moving on from Roquan. It's if you do move on, you better have a better solution. I don't know that there's another solution for filling Jalen Johnson's spot if, in fact, you move on from him. They need talent on this roster. He's a talented player. I'm not telling you to make him the highest paid cornerback in the league, but let's find a way to come to some common ground with some of these guys. And it goes a long way inside that locker room. I'm sure there were a lot of, pissed off people and red asses when they moved on from Roquan, and even when they moved on from Robert Quinn. So, I mean, like, this is not the feeling you want to have festering in your building, that they're not willing to pay for performance from their existing players.
Yeah, and to Tom's point, Cap, like when I was with the Bears, Brian Urlacher, Mike Brown, and myself, we weren't Jerry Angelo guys, right? We were drafted by Mark Hatley. We do feel like we were Chicago Bears developed by the Chicago Bears. Right. So like Jalen Johnson, he may not be a Ryan Poles guy, but he's a Chicago Bear. And they're all Chicago Bears now. He's been in that building. He's been developed here. If you like everything you see on a day-to-day basis, right? If you like his work ethic, if you think he's a guy who you hang your sign on and say, these are the kind of guys we repay, then I don't know what the holdup is.
Yeah, I never understood I didn't draft Olin, so he's not my guy. We both have Chicago Bears across our chest. Mm-hmm. He's my guy. That's on my team. I never understood that. I think if Justin Fields earns an extension and plays at that elite level, he's Ryan Poles' guy. They're Bears. That's the way it should always be looked. All right, time for our Vienna look ahead, because you got to go to New Orleans to play a 4-4 Saints team that won on the road last week. Derek Carr is a competent NFL quarterback. Chris Olave and some of these other guys they've got there, Alvin Kamara, they've got talent on this roster. I think it's a really tough game to go down and win. I think they look at this one, boy, we're 4-4. We're in the hunt. We cannot stub our toe against Chicago. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I feel like you got to score a bunch of points to keep up with them this week.
Yeah, a bunch of points against a defense that doesn't give up a bunch of points, right? They're very good. And we talked about, like, when I look at the New Orleans Saints, they have an advantage, obviously, on their roster. I think their coaching staff gives them a big advantage, guys. I think they have a good staff. I think Dennis Allen and Joe Woods do a great job on the defense side of the ball. Pete Carmichael, who's with Sean Payton for years, right? And they got Doug Marrone over there at O-line coach. They just have a lot of guys in that building who know what they're doing and how to, at this time of the year, how to game plan to beat specific teams. And Tom, I don't know if you agree, but
yeah,
when you find coaches like that, it's a huge advantage, man. Once you get to the middle to late part of the NFL year, those guys become extremely important. The guys who study film, the guys who can give you little hints on this, how you block this guy. This is exactly what we're going to do to beat this team.
You tell me that Dennis Allen's got a plan for a rookie quarterback and an offense that isn't overly talented. I think Dennis Allen probably has a pretty good plan for this crew. They're a really good defense. They're top 10 in yards allowed and points allowed. They don't have a great pass rush. I think they've got 15 sacks on the season, and they don't have a high pressure rate, but that doesn't keep them from keeping opponents out of the end zone. They're a really good group defensively, and a group that can frustrate you and keep you out of the end zone. So they're not an explosive offense, despite having some difference makers inside that offensive huddle. I think they probably will be better in the second half of the season on that side of the ball than they were in the first half of the season. But Olin could tell you better than I. I mean, I've played down there a couple of times, but it's a difficult environment. They're well coached, and they've got a stifling defense. So I think this is going to be quite a challenge for our guys.
Olin, was that a tough environment for you to play in down in New Orleans? And what was the toughest environment for you to go play in?
Extremely tough. New Orleans is extremely tough to play, and I played there, and it was a quite advantage for us when we were at home and for our defense allowed. And to Tom's point, we haven't seen Bajan and his crew do this yet, right? They haven't been in a stadium like this where they got to use silent count, where you're behind on every snap because the defense is off the ball about the same time as you. It's hard to do, and the Bears' penalties reared its head again, right, in this past game. So on the road again. One of the hardest places, Seattle was really hard to play, loud stadium. Minnesota back in the day before they changed it and they pumped music into there, and the Viking came out on his motorcycle, and John Randall had his face painted. He was doing Samoan slap dances to me. That was a tough place to play also.
It's so funny.
John, I'm not Samoan, man. I'm Hawaiian.
What is a Samoan slap dance?
Go on and find the All Blacks in New Zealand rugby, and you'll see them doing the haka and they slap their body. And John was doing that to me. I said, John, Hawaiians don't really do that, but whatever, And then John was like, I think he studied the media guy, and he was talking about the O-line guys' wives on the line. The guy was nuts.
It's funny because I consider, like, I loved playing at Green Bay. You hate the Packers, but I loved playing at Green Bay. I like playing in New Orleans. It just reminds me, I saw some video. We played down there. They were 7-0. They had this cha-ching. There was a commercial that was going on. Olin, you're probably too young, obviously. Cap, you probably remember.
I don't hear that a lot anymore. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that.
Of course. But like, there was this big commercial because they were 7-0. And you guys got to remember that when we went down there and played them, Vic Fangio was their linebacker coach. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they played this 3-4. It was who was it? It was Sam Mills. It was Vaughn Johnson. It was Ricky Jackson. And Jesus, there was one other guy. I mean, it was a monster 4 guy.
And it was 1992. The Rally's hamburger commercial was cha-ching.
And I just saw a video of it. In the first 58 minutes of the game, Harbaugh was 2 of 19 for 16 yards and 2 interceptions. But we stayed in the game because, as always, Richard Denton, our defense, was lights out. So we finally, at the end of the game, we finally go on this drive. We drive the length of the field, and we ended up beating them. I think it was 20-17. And it was probably one of the most memorable victories we had because of the atmosphere that was down there, because of the juice that was going through that building. And it was a great football environment. And maybe it's not exactly like that now, but I find it hard to believe that once you walk in that building that you're going to feel welcome as an opposing team.
I got to ask you too, by the way, I'm happy to announce my partnership with Vienna Beef this year. Great taste flavor since 1893, celebrating their 130th anniversary. Look for one of my favorite kits. So if you're going to watch a Bears game, especially if you're watching our show and you're not in Chicago, order up at viennabeef.com, the Chicago-style hot dog kit. What great way for your game day party. Perfect for any tailgate, for game day. Again, viennabeef.com. Use code CAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. I got to ask you guys about Velus Jones. He brings out the opening kickoff. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And got to the, I don't know, what did he get to, the 20? You get to the 25 without trying. Then he runs in kick-catch interference. Then he drops the touchdown.
Cap, you can stop there. You can stop there. I mean, look, I'm not one to call for people's jobs, but he doesn't provide an answer to
3 offensive snaps. Why is he on the game day roster?
Because he was Ryan Poles' first offensive draft pick, probably. That's the only answer I can give you. It's just, my ultimate litmus test with everything, especially in the world of sports, is the juice worth the squeeze? And it just isn't. I mean, maybe a wonderful kid. I don't know how he is around the building. I'm sure he's fine. He just does not provide enough for this franchise. And you keep giving him opportunities where I know you wouldn't be so patient and be so generous with, giving others opportunities in different situations.
Yeah, the drop pass was huge, right? It was huge in the game. Obviously, Beijing could have threw it better, but if it hits you 3 times, we'd like you to catch the ball. Look, Cap, I think it's pretty simple, man. I mean, there's not a lot of – they don't have other guys, right? So Velus Jones has the speed. And, I mean, who else – I like to tell people about the offensive line when you say, well, let's replace Cody White here. Well, we need get Lucas Patrick out of there. Fine. But who are you putting in there? Right? So if we take Velus Jones out, I'm good with it. It's just who do they put in, right? Or, who do they give that game day roster spot to? You already see they're handing Trent Taylor the ball. Well, they're going to have to do that more often if it's not Velus Jones, right? So it's just kind of – I know what you guys are saying because every time he's out there, it seems to be some kind of mental mistake or something he does wrong, right? I don't know what you do with him, but I just know that you have to have a better option first.
I would suggest this. Maybe this is an option. Scour the other teams around the league. Scour their practice squads. I mean, you are a young building team. You are not competing for much of anything right now. So what is so wrong with maybe trying to find someone to give that opportunity to? Maybe give more snaps to Tyler Scott. I think at the end of the day, I think that Velus was only on the field for 3 offensive plays, 3 or 4. So they have limited what they're asking him to do. But at this point, I think that had he not been Ryan's first offensive draft pick and drafted in the third round a couple of years ago, I'm not so sure their patience would be what it is.
Would you also agree by making a deal? I wanted to get this in before we get out of here. Making a deal for Montez Sweat told me Ryan Poles is safe.
Yes.
There's no way
I don't
Kevin
mean
Warren's letting him trade a second-round pick if he's not keeping him.
Yeah, Olin, real quick, that's the one thing that is the first thought that went through my mind. If this, is an organization in flux, it tells me that Kevin Warren is perfectly on the same page and comfortable with Ryan. If you're going to make a trade, giving up a second-round pick, then I think your general manager has tremendous job security.
What I wouldn't pay to get Kevin Warren's notes that he had in that game, right? I wonder what he was writing down. Yeah, it looked like he was writing down by each player or something, right? I was just wondering what he was doing there. But I agree with you in normal circumstances, but this is the Chicago Bears, man. I have seen crazier things happen where they allow people to do this, right? Ryan Pace and Nagy draft a quarterback, trade all their assets, and fire him that year. So it's just kind of, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Cap. I know what you're saying, and I would have totally agree with you if we weren't talking about the Chicago Bears.
Fair. Very fair. Very fair statement.
Valid point. All right, before we get out of here, Olin already made his prediction, I guess.
You got me fired, man.
But give me your 2 keys to the game. Tommy and I will make our predictions.
With the Chicago Bears, we talked about how they win games, right? It's 170-plus yards rushing. It's running the ball, and it's winning the turnover battle. And I think that's going to be every week we watch this Chicago Bears team play. Can they do those things? And then, what does Montez Sweat bring? What does he bring? Does he unlock Yannick Ngakoue? And does he move somebody to 3 technique that plays better in there? And can they pressure the quarterback? Can they pressure Derek Carr? Because like Tommy said, he's a pretty damn good quarterback, especially when he's not under pressure.
Yeah, I think that, Olin and I, we're going to say this every week through the course of the remainder of the season. If they're going to be in this game, you got to run the football because it's what they do well, and you got to take care of the football. You can't be a self-destructive team the way they were Sunday night against the Chargers. I don't think that the Saints will get away from them in the manner in which the Chargers did, because I don't think the Saints offense can do some of the things that the Chargers can do. So I think that the Bears can stay in this game. I just think that their defense containing our offense, and I don't think that Bagent will again, I don't think it will be a disaster for him, but this is another really tough challenge for him. I think this is a game that the Saints probably win by 3, 23-20 or 20-17. I don't think it'll be, a game where the Saints run away from them again, because I don't think, Cap, that they have the offensive firepower that the Chargers do. So I think it'll be a fairly close game, but I would take the opposing team.
Point spread's gone from 6 to 7.5. I think it's back at 7 now. I would lay them. I would say they win like 27-17, something along those lines.
How many screens is Carmichael drawing for Alvin Kamara right now after
100.
watching the last game?
A lot.
A lot.
By the way, who does your football team, your high school team, play this week in the playoffs?
You know what? We have a fun game, man. I'm sure, as you guys know, being an Illinois guy, Antioch's a great place to play football. They love their football out there. They still run the triple option. Their defense is tough. We got to go out there to them 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and it's going to be a big challenge. They're a well-coached football team. You watch them on film, you can tell they love to play football. The kids out there come after you. So looking forward to going up there. I always love to go places where the town loves football, and by watching the film, you can tell they're well-coached, and the kids love playing football also.
All right, well, best of luck to J-Mac and to you, and hope you get a victory, man. Keep the drive for a championship alive.
Mm-hmm. We're hoping to.
All right. Tommy, Olin, always a lot of fun. I'm off to have a few cake balls. I worked out today. I'm good. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you next week. For Tommy, for Olin, I'm David Kaplan. It's Feldco Bears Recap Live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and available on demand right here on our Recap channel. Have a great rest of your night. Bear down. Take that.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chiller.
Folks, there's no need to be afraid of old windows.
Right now, buy one window and you'll get one free. Plus, no interest for 1 year. Buy one window, get one free ends Halloween. Hurry. Call now.
For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4FELDCO. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, Four Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chilling.